Detective Marcus Reed had seen plenty of hellholes in his 15 years on the force, but this was something else. The smell of stale sweat, burnt foil, and old takeout made his stomach churn as he stepped into the dimly lit house. The officers behind him moved swiftly, their boots heavy on the floor, their voices sharp. "Hands where we can see them." A man with hollow eyes and shaky hands tried to bolt, but Officer Park grabbed him, shoving him against the stained wall. Others were too dazed to react, barely lifting their heads as the police swept the house. And then, a noise. Marcus froze. It wasn't a cough or a wheeze or the muttered curses of a junkie. It was a giggle. He turned his head toward a half-open door. Carefully, he nudged it open. And there, in the middle of a filthy room, sat a little girl. She was no older than 5, her tiny legs crossed, her hands clutching a one-armed doll. She hummed softly, rocking the doll back and forth like it was the most natural thing in the world. Marcus's chest tightened. The room smelled like mold and neglect, but the girl? She was clean. A small miracle, considering where she was. She looked up at him, blinking with curious, innocent eyes. "Are you a police?" she asked, her voice light like they were playing a game. Marcus knelt. "Yes, sweetheart. What's your name?" "Lena." "Lena, do you live here?" She shook her head, her little fingers gripping the doll tighter. "I just stay in here when they have their grown-up time." Grown-up time. Marcus swallowed the rage rising in his throat. "Are you hungry, Lena?" She nodded. "Okay, sweetheart. Let's get you something to eat." As Marcus gently lifted her into his arms, she wrapped her arms around his neck, trusting him without hesitation. And for the first time in a long time, Marcus felt something he wasn't used to. Heartbreak. Rebecca Hayes examined Lena carefully, checking her small limbs, her reflexes, her heartbeat. No signs of physical harm. No malnutrition. She's remarkably healthy, considering the circumstances. Angela Monroe, the social worker assigned to Lena's case, sighed in relief. That's one blessing. Lena sat on the exam table, her legs swinging as she sucked on a lollipop one of the nurses had given her. "Can I go home now?" she asked, voice hopeful. Angela hesitated. "Sweetheart, we're trying to find your home." Lena's tiny fingers clenched the lollipop stick. "I want to go with Mommy." Angela swallowed hard. "Because Mommy?" Mommy was in prison, soon to be released. Angela had already made the call, hoping, praying, that the woman would at least try to be a mother. Instead, she got a flat, lifeless response. "I don't want her. Find someone else." Angela had pushed. "She's your daughter. Don't you care?" "No, I never wanted her in the first place." Angela's hand shook as she ended the call, but she wasn't done. There was still the father. She tracked him down, dialing his number, heart pounding. Maybe, just maybe, he would step up. When he answered, she held on to hope. "Mr. Carter, this is Angela Monroe. I'm a social worker. I'm reaching out regarding your daughter, Lena." A beat of silence. Then, "What do you mean, my daughter?" Angela's stomach dropped. "Lena, she's 5 years old. She needs a guardian. Her mother has declined to take custody, so we wanted to know if you—" "No." Flat, cold, final. Angela gritted her teeth. "Mr. Carter, please understand. I have a wife, a family. I'm not going to let you destroy my life with this nonsense. I want nothing to do with her." Angela's hand clenched around the phone. "You know, one day, you might regret this. Doubt it." Click. Angela Monroe had spent years working as a social worker, but nothing, absolutely nothing, had ever gotten under her skin the way Lena Carter did. At first, it was just another case file on her desk. Another child left behind. Another unwanted soul shuffled into the foster care system like an afterthought. But after she met Lena, this wasn't just a case. This was personal. The first time Angela visited Lena at her foster home, she expected, well, she wasn't sure what she expected. Maybe a child who was distant, broken, afraid, because that's what usually happened when kids were abandoned. But Lena, she was sitting on the floor, coloring in a notebook, her tiny fingers gripping a half-broken red crayon. She looked up when Angela entered, blinking those big, brown, curious eyes. "Hi," Lena said simply. "Hi, sweetheart," Angela replied, crouching down beside her. "What are you drawing?" Lena turned the notebook toward her. It was a picture of a house, a big one, with a blue door and a garden full of flowers. "Is this your house?" Angela asked. Lena shook her head. "No, but I wish it was." Angela's throat tightened. "I bet one day you'll have a house just like this." Lena tilted her head, considering her words. Then she smiled, shrugging. Maybe. That should have been the end of it. Just another visit, another note in the case file. But Angela couldn't stop thinking about her. Angela started visiting more often. She told herself it was just part of the job, making sure Lena was adjusting, ensuring she was comfortable. But then it turned into more. She started bringing little things. A pack of markers, a stuffed bunny, a book about the moon and stars. Lena would light up every time. "You always bring me things," she said one day, hugging the stuffed bunny tight. Angela smiled. "That's because I like seeing you happy." Lena stared at her for a long time before finally whispering, "Are you my friend?" Angela's chest ached. "Of course I am." Lena beamed. And that was it. Angela was hooked. She was only supposed to be a temporary presence in Lena's life. But now, she was becoming everything. One rainy afternoon, they sat on a bench in the park, watching the raindrops hit the pavement. Angela had taken Lena out for ice cream, because sometimes, when life had been extra cruel, you needed a little sweetness. Lena swung her legs, licking at her melting cone. "Why doesn't anybody want me?" she asked suddenly, her voice soft, but devastating. Angela's heart clenched. "Sweetheart." "It's okay," Lena interrupted, as if she was comforting herself. "I was just thinking, maybe I wasn't meant to have a mommy or daddy." Angela's stomach turned, because no 5-year-old should ever feel like they weren't meant to be loved. Without thinking, she reached out, tucking a loose curl behind Lena's ear. "Lena, listen to me," Angela said, her voice gentle but firm. "You deserve love. You deserve a family." Lena tilted her head, studying her. Then, in the quietest, smallest voice, she asked, "Then why don't you be my mommy?" Angela froze. She wasn't prepared for that. She had spent her career advocating for children, helping them find homes, families, and stability. But adopting, that was different, because Angela was barely making ends meet herself. She was single, struggling, still trying to get her life together, because Angela had never, in her wildest dreams, planned to be a mother. But looking at Lena, those big, hopeful eyes staring up at her, so open, so trusting, Angela knew she had no choice. Because in that moment, Lena wasn't just another case. She was her daughter. And Angela was going to fight like hell to give her the life she deserved. It wasn't easy. The system wasn't built for single women on social worker salaries to adopt. There were meetings, background checks, financial assessments, and every step of the way, someone reminded Angela that she didn't have enough. Not enough space, not enough money, not enough support. But Angela knew one thing. She had love. And that was more than enough. The day the adoption was finalized, Angela held Lena in her arms and whispered, "You are mine, forever." And Lena, she just smiled and held on tighter. Because for the first time in her life, she belonged. The world told Lena Monroe she wasn't enough. Not enough money, not enough stability, not enough experience. But when she looked at Lena, her daughter, the little girl who had once sat in the dark with nothing but a broken doll and 2 big eyes, Angela knew one thing. She would give Lena everything, even if it meant giving up everything herself. Angela had been prepared for the struggles of raising a child alone. But she hadn't been prepared for the joy. For the way Lena would crawl into her lap while she read case files at night, giggling when Angela poked her nose playfully. For the midnight giggle fits over silly bedtime stories Angela made up. The ones where Lena was a brave princess who always outsmarted the villains. For the tiny hands holding hers when they walked through the grocery store. Lena always chattering away about how one day she was going to be a doctor for real people and not just teddy bears. Angela lived for those moments, even when she was exhausted from juggling 2 jobs. Even when she skipped meals so Lena could have seconds. Even when she cried in the shower because she was terrified she wasn't enough. Because every time she doubted herself, Lena wrapped her arms around her neck and whispered, "You're the best mommy in the world." And suddenly, that was enough. Life wasn't kind. Money was always tight. Angela worked long shifts at the social services office, took side gigs doing administrative work just to keep food on the table. Sometimes, rent was late. Sometimes, Lena's shoes were too small for too long. But Angela never let Lena feel it. She made magic out of nothing. When they couldn't afford toys, they built forts out of blankets and played adventure games. Angela donning a pirate hat, a dish towel, while Lena clutched her toy sword, a wooden spoon. When birthdays were simple, Angela would bake a lopsided cake and pretend it was the grandest thing in the world, because to Lena, it was. When Lena needed school supplies, Angela worked extra hours, selling her old jewelry just to make sure her daughter had a fresh notebook on the first day of school. And through it all, Lena never complained, never whined, never asked why they didn't have more. She just hugged Angela tighter. "One day, I'm going to be a doctor," Lena would say, "and I'm going to buy you the biggest house ever." Angela would laugh, ruffling her hair. "I don't need a big house, sweetheart. Just you." Lena would grin, missing a front tooth, and declare, "Then I'll buy you the fanciest coffee ever." Angela had no idea that one day that little promise would come true. Lena was brilliant, top of her class, all A's. Angela was so damn proud, even when she couldn't afford new clothes for award ceremonies, even when she borrowed money just to buy Lena a used laptop for school. When Lena got into medical school, she cried so hard, Angela thought she might pass out. And Angela, she held her, pressing kisses to her forehead. "You did it, baby." Lena clung to her. "I couldn't have done it without you." Angela smiled through the tears. "You were always meant for this." The world had once called Lena unwanted. Now the world would call her doctor. Dr. Lena Monroe was used to chaos. She'd worked through 20-hour shifts, ER brawls, trauma codes that ended in heartbreak. But this patient, this one rattled her. He came in unconscious, car accident, internal bleeding, broken ribs. She did what she always did, calm, collected, and in control. Hours later, when he woke up, groggy and bruised, he looked at her and whispered, "Did I die?" Lena gave a soft chuckle. "Not on my table," he smiled. "Then thank you, Dr. Monroe." It wasn't until he came back for a follow-up 2 weeks later that things spiraled. Angela brought Lena lunch, as she often did on Thursdays, setting it down in her office with a proud grin. "You need to stop skipping meals, Doc. You're not invincible yet." Lena rolled her eyes playfully. "You raised me. That's practically a superpower." They were mid-laugh when a knock interrupted them. The door creaked open, and in walked the man from the accident. His eyes met Angela's, and the air shifted. Angela's smile faded. She stood slowly. "Daniel?" His smile froze. "Angela?" Lena looked between them, confused. Angela's voice dropped. "That's your father." Silence slammed into the room like a gunshot. Lena stared at him. Daniel took a step back, his face pale. "No, that's not possible." Angela turned to Lena, heartbreaking. "I didn't tell you because I didn't think he deserved to know you. But yes, that's him." Daniel sat on the edge of the hospital bench, hands trembling. "I didn't know it was you," he said, voice cracking. "I swear I didn't." Lena sat beside him, arms folded, rage and disbelief twisting inside her. "You told Angela you didn't want me. You had a family, a life." He winced. "That life is gone. My wife, she left me, slept with my brother, took everything." Lena blinked. "Karma, huh? I didn't know how to be a father. I was scared." "You didn't have to be perfect. You just had to show up," he nodded, shame painting every line on his face. "Do you hate me?" Lena's voice was low. "No, but I pity you." A week later, Lena's photo appeared in a local health magazine. From foster to physician, Dr. Monroe's journey. Julia, her biological mother, saw it and came crawling back. She walked into the hospital unannounced, dressed like she was trying to look like money. "My baby girl," she cooed, arms open. Lena stared at her coldly. "Excuse me?" Julia blinked. "Don't be like that. I've changed. I saw your interview. You're doing amazing, sweetheart. You didn't want me when I had nothing." Lena snapped. "What changed?" Julia hesitated. "Life's been hard. I thought maybe we could reconnect." Angela stepped into the hallway behind Lena, arms crossed, fire in her eyes. "You don't get to waltz in now and call her your daughter," she said. "You threw her away. I picked her up." Julia scoffed. "You were just a social worker." Angela smirked. "And yet, here she is, Dr. Monroe, raised on love, not blood." Lena sat at the corner table of a quiet cafe, her hands wrapped around a warm cup of chamomile tea, though she hadn't taken a single sip. The air felt heavy, like something important was about to be cut loose. Across from her sat Julia, draped in designer knockoffs and doused in a perfume that was trying too hard. Her nails were done, her smile was painted on. To the left sat Daniel, looking older, humbler. No wedding ring, no flashy clothes. Just a man who looked like he'd been through the storm and came out the other side, broken but honest. Lena folded her hands. "I want to hear why you're here, both of you. Then I'll speak." Julia jumped in first. Sweetheart, I saw your article, and She put a hand on her chest like she was accepting an award. I couldn't believe how far you've come. I knew you were special. Lena didn't flinch. When you gave me away, did you think I was special then? Julia blinked, thrown off. Well, I was young, confused, but now that I see the woman you've become, I just want us to be connected again. You mean now that I have money? Lena said coolly. Julia stiffened. That's not fair. Funny, because life wasn't fair when you left me locked in a room with strangers getting high. Daniel winced, looking away, but Julia didn't stop. Look, I'm your mother. You came from me. We're blood. I just want a chance. You want a check? Lena interrupted. Let's stop pretending. Julia scoffed and reached for her purse, tossing her hands in the air. Fine. Maybe I misjudged this whole thing. You did, Julia stood. Call me when you grow up and stop acting like the world owes you something. Funny. Lena said with a bitter laugh. That's exactly what I was thinking about you. Julia stormed out. Silence lingered. A heavy, honest kind. Lena glanced at Daniel, who hadn't moved. And you? She asked. What's your reason for being here? Daniel took a long breath, his voice low and unsteady. I came because I didn't know how to be a father then, but not a day goes by that I don't think about what I lost. You didn't lose me, you walked away. I know, he whispered. I thought protecting my marriage was more important. I thought I was doing the right thing. And now? Now I have nothing. No wife, no family, no excuses, but I still have guilt. Lena stared at him, her jaw clenched. Do you want a relationship now because you're lonely? Daniel shook his head slowly. No. I want one because I want to know the woman I abandoned, and thank God every day that someone else had the heart I didn't. Her throat tightened. She looked down at her tea, still untouched. This isn't forgiveness, she said finally. This is a beginning, a slow one. Daniel blinked back tears. That's more than I deserve. Lena looked him in the eyes. You're right, it is. But still, she didn't ask him to leave. And that was something. Lena didn't tell Angela right away. Not because she was hiding anything, but because she was still figuring it out herself. She sat on it for days. Replay after replay of Daniel's face across that cafe table. The way he didn't argue, didn't excuse, just owned it, quietly. That kind of humility didn't erase the past, but it opened a window Lena never thought she'd want to look through. They started small. A coffee here, a phone call there. No pressure, no titles, no dad. Just Daniel. Sometimes he'd ask about her work. Other times he just listened. And once, after she told him about a grueling shift in the ER, he showed up the next day with a bag of her favorite chocolate-covered almonds. She didn't know how he remembered. But he did. Angela noticed the shift. They were washing dishes one night when she finally said it. You're seeing him, aren't you? Lena paused, rinsing a plate. I'm talking to him. That's it. Angela didn't push. She just nodded and handed her another dish. You don't need my permission, sweetheart. But do I have your blessing? Angela smiled softly. You have my trust, always. Lena blinked fast. That hit harder than expected. I'm not replacing you, you know. You couldn't if you tried. They both laughed. And it was okay. Meanwhile, Julia wasn't done. She showed up at Lena's hospital. Again, this time wearing sunglasses indoors and acting like she was someone. I'm here to see my daughter, she told the front desk. Lena met her in the lobby. You need to stop coming here. Julia pouted. Why? Because I'm not perfect like your new daddy of the year. Because this isn't about family for you. It's about money. And I don't owe you anything. Not love, not loyalty, and definitely not a check. Julia leaned in, her voice low and venomous. You think she's your real mother? That social worker. Lena didn't flinch. She showed up. You didn't. That's what makes someone a mother. Julia's mouth opened, but Lena was already walking away. She didn't even look back. Weeks later, Daniel invited her to dinner, home-cooked, awkward but sweet. His apartment was modest, clean, lonely, photos on the wall. Until now. There was a new one on the fridge, printed photo of Lena in her white coat at her graduation. I saw it online, he said, sheepish. You printed a pixelated JPG from the internet? I'm not good at tech, she laughed. She didn't mean to, but it came out, real, light. For a second it felt like something healing. Months passed. Lena continued her work, quiet, steady, fulfilled. Angela's birthday rolled around, and Lena surprised her with brunch at an elegant rooftop cafe. As they sat, sipping coffee and laughing over old memories, Lena slid a small envelope across the table. "What's this?" Angela asked. "Open it." Inside was a deed to a small but beautiful home, in both their names. Angela's eyes widened. "Lena, you gave me a home when you had nothing to give," Lena whispered. "Now I want to give you the world." Angela blinked back tears. "You were always enough for me." "And now," Lena smiled, "I'm more than enough for me too." Suddenly, Daniel walked in, holding a small bouquet of sunflowers. Angela's eyes widened, but she didn't look upset, just surprised. "You invited him?" "He wanted to meet the woman who saved my life." Angela looked at Daniel, really looked. Daniel cleared his throat. "Thank you for raising her, for doing what I didn't." Angela nodded once. "You're welcome, but let's be clear, I didn't do it for you." They all laughed. A little awkward, a little real, but for the first time, together. Years later, Lena started a non-profit for children aging out of foster care. She named it the Monroe House. At the grand opening, she stood at the podium, Angela by her side. "Most people are born into love," Lena said, eyes shining. "But some of us are chosen, and sometimes being chosen is even more powerful." The audience rose in applause, and Daniel, he watched from the crowd, proud, tears streaming silently down his face. Some stories don't begin with fairy tales, but they can end with purpose. Thank you for walking this road with Lena. If her journey moved you, like, share, subscribe, because somewhere out there, another story is waiting to be told.